started.
So coming to the topics, so module 2, so already I have shared the module 2 notes. It's available in your WhatsApp group. So please go through the notes. So the same figures provided in the notes, I'll be using it for explanation. So get yourself familiarized with the topics and with the figures and with the explanation parts. So I'll try my best level to explain those topics. So already I have completed this boiler, but still again I'll repeat it. So for the benefit of other students who are not able to connect it due to network problem. So as I told you that in the before the lockdown of the classes, I gave you the introduction part on module 2. There are 3 sections in module 2. So number 1 is boiler, number 2 hydraulic turbines, and number 3 hydraulic pumps. So let us take up the first topic, boilers. So boilers are huge cylindrical vessels, so wherein huge quantity of steam is produced. Steam is a very vital source of energy, as we have already seen in module 1. So you have gone through the steam process, steam formation, and then the various stages of the steam, and then so the dry steam, and then the wet steam, and then the superheated steam. So the temperature enthalpy diagram, so in detail you have gone through, and we have worked out even numericals on superheated steam and dry saturated steam. So we have gone through. So boilers are huge cylindrical vessels where huge quantity of steam is produced. So this steam is a vital source of energy, so where huge quantity of electric power will be produced through steam turbines. So coming to the boiler topics, so there are 4 topics related to boiler section. So the number 1, classification of boiler, number 2 and 3, construction and operating principle of 2 specific type of boilers are highlighted in the syllabus. So one is Babcock's and Wilcox boiler, and then the second one Lancashire boiler, and then the last topic is boiler mountings and accessories. So in this topic, so you will be expecting 2 major figures. So Babcock's and Wilcox boiler and Lancashire boiler, these are the 2 major figures and 2 major questions you can expect. Classification of boiler, boiler mountings and accessories, so you can expect as a minor question. Coming to the classification of boiler, already we have discussed this. So there are certain parameters based on which boilers are classified into different types. So some of the 4 parameters I have displayed: circulation of water and hot gases, number 2 location of furnace, and number 3 circulation of water, and number 4 axis of the shell. So based on these 4 parameters, you can classify the boilers into different types which are highlighted. Number 1 parameter, circulation of water and hot gases. So as you know that to generate steam, so the basic principle is you have to heat the water. So water is a natural source of fluid which is abundantly available. So it comes under renewable source of energy. So it's available, a huge quantity of water is available. It's a natural source. So to generate steam, just you have to heat the water. So once the heating temperature of the water reaches saturation temperature, so at the initial stage, as you know that wet steam formation will take place, followed with dry steam formation. So basically in the boilers, dry steam will be generated, and then a separate superheater will be connected to where the dry steam will be superheated beyond the saturation temperature, and then superheated steam is obtained. So to get the steam, so based on this principle, so you heat the water to the saturation temperature, you get the steam. So based on this parameter, so circulation of water and hot gases. So how do you supply, how do you get this steam? So one way is pass hot gases over the water, or the other way is pass expose the water towards the hot gases. So coming to this water and hot gases, first one fire tube boiler and the second one water tube boiler. So in fire tube boiler, so you find fire tube inside the boiler drum. So inside the boiler drum, fire tubes are connected. So inside the fire tube you find a combustion chamber. So So the combustion chamber where the solid fuel will be ignited, it will be burned to produce hot gases which will provide heat energy. So the heat energy of the hot gases inside the fire tube will heat the fire tube, and the fire tube in turn will heat the water surrounding it. So this is the principle followed in fire tube boiler. And then in water tube boiler, so a channel is created. A channel is a water channel, a closed circuit of a water channel, a pipe section is made, so where the water will be made to run through these pipelines from one inlet point to the outlet point. So these water tubes will be subjected to external hot gases. So when these external hot gases obtained through the combustion of solid fuel, so when these hot gases get exposed on the surface of the water tubes, so they will hit the water tubes. So the water tube gets heated by the external hot gases, so which will result in heating of the water. So once the heating temperature rises the saturation temperature, so wet steam and dry steam formation take place. So this is the principle followed. So based on this principle, circulation, how do you circulate water and how do you circulate the hot gases? So based on this principle, so boilers are classified into two types, fire tube boiler and water tube boiler. Coming to the second parameter, location of furnace. So furnace are combustion chamber. So furnace are the combustion chamber where the solid fuel will be burned. It will be burned to produce hot gases, and the hot gases will provide you the heat energy. So depending on the location of the combustion chamber, where do you locate? So whether it is internally placed or whether it is placed externally outside the boiler. So based on this, we can classify the boilers are internally fired and externally fired. In internally fired boilers, you find combustion chamber within the boiler. So within the boiler drum, you find combustion chamber. So all the fire tube boilers are internally fired boilers. So if the combustion chamber is located inside the boiler, and if it is an integral part of the boiler, so they are called as internally fired boiler. And suppose if the combustion chamber is placed outside the boiler, it is not made an integral part of the boiler. So if it is made an external part, if it is placed outside the boiler drum, so they are called as externally fired boilers. So all the water tube boilers, they fall under the category of externally fired, and all the fire tube boilers, they fall under the category of internally fired boilers. Coming to the third parameter, circulation of water. So this is just flow of water, whether the water is able to flow on its self-gravity, or whether it needs some external support, external water pressure developing device like water pump. So based on this circulation of water, so it's classified into two types, natural circulation and forced circulation. So in natural circulation boilers, the water will be flowing naturally, so on its self-gravity. So it will flow naturally. It doesn't depend on any external pressure developing device. So whereas in forced circulation boilers, so the water will not be able to circulate on its self weight, on its self gravity. So it will be dependent on external pressure developing device, on external, that is hydraulic pumps. So on the water pump, so to generate its pressure, so it will be dependent on the hydraulic pump. So these are forced circulation boilers. Number 4, axis of the shell. So coming to the axis of the shell, so vertical boilers and horizontal boilers. So if the axis of the boiler is placed vertically with respect to the ground surface, so they are called vertical boilers, and if they are parallel to the ground surface, if it is placed horizontal, so they are called horizontal boilers. So basically vertical boilers are small scale, so very small boilers, small capacity and small size boilers, you find vertical boilers. So in all the sugar mills, if you happen to visit maybe the Kadapa, that is in your Maddur region, Kadapa, so there you find lot of sugar mills, you find it, sugar industries, you find it. So if you happen to visit that sugar industry, so you will find lot of vertical type of boilers, you find it. So vertical boilers are small scale boilers, so which can be easily placed with external support, whereas horizontal boilers are huge robots, huge boilers which produce very huge quantity of steam, so which may not be able to withstand on its vertical axis. So coming to these four parameters, so the next topic is construction and operating principle of Babcock and Wilcox boiler and Lancashire boiler. So we'll go to the next topic. So coming to this construction and operating principle of Babcock and Wilcox boiler. So here I'll just activate the, where is the pen option? Yeah, pen. So I'll just highlight the parts using this pen option. So please follow the figure. So coming to this Babcock and Wilcox boiler. So Babcock and Wilcox boiler, so they are externally fired boilers. So they are externally fired boiler because, so you can see the combustion chamber. So the combustion chamber, the furnace, so the combustion chamber is placed externally. So it is not an integral part of the boiler. It is not placed inside the boiler drum. So the combustion chamber is placed externally. So it comes under externally fired boiler, and it comes under water tube boilers. So here you find a closed circuit of water tube. So they come under the category of water tube boilers. So you can find 4 such water tubes where the water is running from the uptake header to the downtake header. So you find a closed channel of water tubes. So over the water tubes, the hot gases produced from the combustion chamber are circulated. So they are exposed. So they pass over the water tubes. So Babcock and Wilcox boiler, they come under water tube boilers. And number 2, they are externally fired because the combustion chamber is located externally. It is placed outside the boiler. It is not an integral part. And then it is a natural circulation type of boiler. So the water will flow naturally. So it doesn't require any hydraulic pump. So you can see that the water flows naturally from the uptake header to the downtake header. So you find a continuous flow of water from the uptake header and downtake header. So the water flows on itself gravity, on its self weight. So it comes under natural circulation boiler. And then it is obviously, since it's a huge and robust, it's a very huge type of boiler, so it comes under horizontal type of boiler. So we can define this Babcock and Wilcox boiler based on those 4 parameters of classification. The Babcock and Wilcox boilers are water tube boilers, externally fired boilers, natural circulation of water type of boiler, and horizontal type of boiler. So coming to the construction details. So there are 3 parts in this topic. So number 1 is the figure, and number 2 is the construction details, and number 3 is the operating principle, which I have given in the notes. So 1/3 of the marks you will get it for the figure, the remaining 1/3 of the marks on construction details, explanation of construction details, and then maybe the remaining 1/3 of the marks for explaining the operating principle, step-by-step procedure, how the steam is generated using this Babcock and Wilcox boiler. In order way, in a step-by-step order, you have to explain the process. Coming to the construction details, so I'll just explain one of the major component of the boiler, that is shell. So the cylindrical shell. So you can see the huge cylindrical shell. It's a huge cylindrical shell. So it is placed on the ground with the help of supports. So there are 2 types of supports provided. One is called iron girder, and then you can see this bricks. So using this brick support and then iron girder, so it is placed on the ground. So this is a major part of the Babcock and Wilcox boiler. So it's a huge cylindrical vessel. So on this cylindrical vessel, you can see that it is filled with water. So it is filled with water. How much it is filled? So it is filled, maybe it may be filled up to 50%. So 50% of the boiler drum is filled with water. Since water is the basic source to produce steam, so without water you cannot produce the steam. So water is the input source, it is the raw material, it is the input source to generate the steam. So therefore the water is filled, the boiler drum is filled with water. So you find some boiler mountings and boiler accessories connected to this boiler drum. So I'll start with the left end of the boiler drum. So on the left end you find one component called feed valve. I've highlighted with the red figure. So feed valve. So what is the function of this feed valve? Why the feed valve is used? As the name indicates, feed. So feeding. So we eat the food, we feed the food, so through our mouth. So mouth is the inlet part, or it is the entry part to feed the food. So in the same way, feed valve. So through this feed valve, the boiler drum is feeded with water. So through this feed valve, so the water will be filled inside the boiler drum. So the shell will be filled with the water with the help of feed valve. So it is the inlet part. So through this inlet part, so the water is made to enter into the boiler shell. And then above the feed valve you find one another part. It is called water level indicator. You can see here. So water level indicator. So this is another component. It is another boiler mounting. So it is connected just above the feed valve. So here, what is the function of water level indicator? As the name indicates, water level indicator. Its function is to indicate the level of water. So what is the level of the water? Whether it is up to the level or whether it has come down. So whether there is a shortage of water. So this will be decided through this water level indicator, because it's a very huge shell. So we cannot physically inspect the water level. So therefore, so water level indicator will provide you information on the level of water. Since it's a continuous process, so one end there is a continuous generation of steam take place. So there, as on the steam generated and steam is removed out, so obviously there will be a shortage of water. The water level obviously will get down. So therefore, always the water level should be maintained to the required level. So this work is done by those two components, water level indicator and feed valve. Feed valve and water level indicator are interconnected. So they are interconnected to each other. So water level indicator will define you the level of water, and if it found the level of water is below the target level, so the feed valve will be activated. Through the feed valve, the water will be supplied. And once it reaches the level, the feed valve will be closed. So therefore, with the help of this feed valve and water level indicator, so the input source, the water which is the input source, will be maintained inside the boiler drum to produce the steam. Coming to the third component, so next I'll go ahead with the same clockwise direction from the left end. So you find pressure gauge. So pressure gauge is another boiler mounting. So it is connected on the boiler drum. So what is the function of pressure gauge? So as the name indicates, pressure. So gauge. So pressure gauge. With the help of pressure gauge, so you can get the pressure value of the steam. So as the steam generates, so obviously it will have some pressure. So the steam pressure. So the steam pressure should not cross its value. So the steam pressure should not cross its value. So the boiler drum, whatever the material the boiler drum is made up of, will have certain limit of pressure withstanding capacity. It will have certain pressure withstanding capacity. So the pressure, the steam pressure withstanding capacity of the boiler drum should not exceed its value. If it exceeds its value, then it will result in explosion. So the boiler shell will explode if it crosses its steam pressure bearing or steam pressure controlling capacity. So therefore, always, so the pressure of the steam is maintained below the maximum pressure bearing capacity of the boiler drum. So this work will be done by this pressure gauge indicator. So with the help of pressure gauge indicator, the pressure may be in the form of bar, or maybe in the form of kg per centimeter square, or maybe in the form of MPa megapascal. So the pressure gauges, normally we find pressure gauges in kg per centimeter square. So 1 kg per centimeter square is equal to 1 bar. So 1 bar is equal to 1 kg per centimeter square. So normally we find pressure analog type of pressure gauges which are defined in terms of kg per centimeter square. So with the help of that, you can easily define the pressure in terms of bar, and from the bar you can converted into MPa, megapascal, because 1 MPa is 10 power 6 Pascal and 1 bar is 10 power 5 Pascal. So then coming to the next component, dead safety valve. So you can see the another component, dead weight safety valve. So dead weight safety valve. So what is the function of this dead weight safety valve? So its function is, so it will get activated so if the pressure level increases the target value. If the pressure level, if it is crosses its limit, so it gets activated and immediately it will release the pressure and prevent from explosion of the boiler shell, just like in your pressure cooker. So in your domestic cooking pressure cooker, so you find two components on the top of the lid of the pressure cooker. One is a vessel, and then just next to the vessel you find one small cylindrical shape of valve, so with a hole, so the hole covered with some non-metal material. So that is called dead safety valve. So vessel and dead safety valve are interconnected. So what the vessel will do in pressure cooker, it will keep on releasing the pressure. It will not allow the pressure to build up beyond the maximum value. So once the pressure of the steam gets generated inside the pressure cooker, so the vessel will release the excess pressure. So suppose in some case if the vessel gets blocked, if it is unable to perform its job, if it gets blocked, then in such case the dead safety valve, will come into application. So the whole of the dead safety valve covered with some non-metal material that will get melted. So when it gets melted, it creates a hole. So through the hole of the dead safety valve, so the excess pressure will be released, and thereby it helps in prevention of explosion of the pressure cooker. So just imagine a small pressure cooker of 3 liter or 5 liter or 10 liter. So if it gets exploded, so what will be the outcome? So the outcome really, it will be very severe. Then imagine the boiler drum. So boiler, it's a very huge and robust, it's a very huge cylindrical vessel. So imagine if the dead safety valve is not provided, and if the pressure gauge is, if it fails to perform its duty, so imagine what will happen. So it will explode like a bomb. So it will result in a very severe effect if it gets exploded. So to prevent the explosion of the boiler drum, so the pressure gauge and the dead safety valve should be working in a proper direction. Coming to the next part, you find this T-tube. So you find one T-tube, and then you find one superheated, U-shape superheated. So what is the function of this T-tube and what is the function of superheater? So T-tube. So here, as I told you, that in the boiler drum, so since it will be heated to saturation temperature, so it may not be possible to achieve superheated temperature. So normally, so saturation temperature can be easily attained. So with the saturation temperature, so dry saturated steam is produced inside the boiler drum. So this dry saturated steam is converted into superheated steam by passing it through this T-tube. So from this T-tube, the dry saturated steam produced in the boiler will be made to pass, and the T-tube is connected to superheater. So when this dry saturated steam passes from the T-tube and reaches the superheater, so the superheater will heat the dry saturated steam, and it converts the dry saturated steam into superheated steam. So after producing superheated steam, you can see this steam stop valve. So the steam stop valve is connected to the superheater. So from the steam stop valve, so via the superheater, the superheated steam is removed from the boiler drum, and it is supplied to the steam turbine to produce electrical power. And then the last right hand part, you find this manhole. So here manhole means one door will be provided on the boiler drum, so right end of the boiler drum. So as the name indicates, manhole door. So here using this door, so an inspecting officer, an inspector, so to inspect the boiler. So if the boiler breaks down, or if it is unable to perform its duty, and if some failure takes place, so an inspecting officer can get inside the boiler and inspect the boiler component. So through this door, so it is called manhole door. So just look at the manhole door is maybe more than 6 feet. So imagine the size of the boiler. And so this is then another, coming to the next part of the boiler mounting. So we find headers and water tubes. So there are two types of header: uptake header, I show you here, and then downtake header, I just highlighted over here. So headers are water tubes. So these headers are slightly inclined. They are not made vertical, so they are slightly inclined, and these headers are connected to water tubes. So you can find 4 water tubes here, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So you can see, so 4 water tubes. So 4 water tubes are connected to the header. So with the help of this header and water tubes, a closed circuit of water is achieved. So the water from the boiler drum will enter into the downtake header. It will pass through these water tubes, and then it will move upwards. So from the upward header, as the name indicates, uptake header and downtake header. Uptake header, it will take the water to the uptake, that is upward direction. Downtake header, it will take the water direction downward. So downward flow of water from the downtake header, upward flow of water from the uptake header. So a closed circuit, a closed channel, it's shown in the arrow. So you can see the arrow. So flow of water, the water is made to flow. So from the boiler drum, so from the downtake header, so via the water tubes, and then again from the uptake header, then again back into the boiler drum. So you find a closed circulation of water. So a closed circuit of water channel, you find it. So these are function of water tubes and connected with uptake header and downtake header. And then another component, you find this baffle plates. 2 vertical baffle plates are highlighted over here. I have just highlighted, so you can see baffle plate. So baffle plates. So baffle plates, so these are deflectors. So these baffle plates are placed at certain distance on the water tubes. So what is the function of these baffle plates? So these baffle plates will make the hot gases to pass over the water tube. So they help in deflection of hot gases. So you can see that the hot gases which are shown with the arrow marks. So the hot gases produced from the combustion chamber, they pass over a small portion of water tubes on the left hand, and then through this baffle plate they get deflected, and again they pass through the second section of the water tubes. Then again there you find the deflection of the hot gases. So the purpose of baffle plate is it ensures maximum exposure of hot gases on the water tubes. So the maximum heat energy of the hot gases utilized, the maximum steam is produced. So if baffle plates are not used, then randomly the hot gases will pass randomly over the water tubes and they get out from the chimney. So to ensure maximum exposure of hot gases on the water tubes, so baffle plates are used. So with the help of baffle plates, so the hot gases are made to deflect over the water tubes, and then the water tubes gets exposed to the hot gases for maximum duration of time. So this is about water tubes and baffle plates. And then coming to this blow of pipes. This is accessory. So boiler accessories, blow off pipe. So this boiler accessory blow off pipe. What is the function of this blow off pipe? So with the help of this blow off pipe, so as you know, the water contains tiny sand particles. So those tiny sand particles, they get settled down at the bottom of the downtake header, and the bottom section of the downtake header is connected to the blow off pipe. So from the blow off pipe, so the sand particles can be removed physically. And then coming to the last part, combustion chamber. So you find this combustion chamber, so you find this solid fuel coal. So the coal is supplied inside the combustion chamber and it is ignited. So you find burning of the coal, so producing hot gases. So the heat energy of the hot gases is utilized to heat the water and to generate this steam. So those hot gases, after performing their duty, so they get out from this chimney. So the outlet of the chimney. So I hope I have explained most of the major components of Babcock's and Wilcox boiler along with their functions and purpose. Coming to the operating principle, so once you have understood the major parts of the boiler, and so you have to just explain the process, explain the operating principle in a step-by-step order. Already operating principle I have explained during the explanation of the major parts of the boiler, so just you have to go ahead with a step-by-step order. So in operating principle, so the water is supplied inside the boiler drum, the furnace is operated, so the closed circuit of water is achieved from with the help of water pipes and uptake header and downtake header. So when the hot gases are emitted from the combustion chamber, so they are made to pass over the water tubes and they are made to deflect. They are made to deflect through the baffle plates. So when the hot gases are exposed over the water tubes, the heat energy of the hot gases will heat the water tubes. The water tube in turn heat the water flowing inside the water tubes, and then so with the heating of the water, so once the temperature reaches saturation temperature, steam formation will take place. So since the steam will have low density, so it's a light in weight, so the steam formation, as the steam formation takes place, it gets settled over the top liquid layer of the boiler drum, and then the steam produced in the boiler drum is a dry saturated steam. So it will be supplied, it will be passed over the superheater, where it will be superheated and converted into superheated steam. Finally, so from the steam stop valve, the superheated steam is supplied to the prime mover, so that is to the steam turbine to produce electrical power. So in the next slide, we will just have a video on this Babcock's and Wilcox boiler, animated video, so it will give a better idea. So let us see so whether the video will play or not. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll just complete the next topic, Lancashire boiler, and then I'll play both the videos, Babcock's and Wilcox boiler, because next topic, Lancashire boiler, is it's not in detail. So already, so 3/4, nearly 80% of the parts and the operating principle, almost 80% remains similar to Babcock's and Wilcox with just 20% modification. So you have to focus on this. So coming to this Lancashire boiler, so again Lancashire boiler, so the number one category of classification, that is it comes under the category of fire tube boiler. The Lancashire boiler is a fire tube boiler. Why it is fire tube? Because fire tubes are used. So you can see the fire tubes inserted inside the boiler drum. So fire tubes are used, so therefore it is called fire tube boiler. And second one, it is internally fired boiler. Why it is internally fired? Because as I told you, if it is a fire tube boiler, obviously all the fire tube boilers are internally fired. So inside the fire tube you find the combustion chamber. So the combustion chamber is located inside the fire tube, and the fire tube are placed inside the boiler drum. So since the combustion chamber is an integral part of the boiler, so therefore it is an internally fired boiler. And then coming to the third one, natural circulation. So here there is no any such circuit formation where the water is made to flow from one end to the other end. So there is no necessity. So the level of water in the boiler drum is maintained to the required level. Coming to the last one, it's a horizontal type. Obviously it's a huge and robust, so it's a horizontal type of boiler. So Lancashire boiler is a fire tube boiler, internally fired boiler, and horizontal type of boiler. So it will have the same components. Boiler mountings and accessories are similar components you find it in Lancashire boiler with their similar functions. So only what we have to focus here is, so you can find here, let me see the operating principle. Let me explain you the operating principle. So here in Lancashire boiler you find that the boiler drum. So the boiler drum is filled with water. So what should be the level of the water in boiler drum? Since the water tubes are inserted inside the boiler drum, so obviously the level of the water should be more than 50%. So nearly 70-75%, 3/4 of the boiler drum is filled with water. So 3/4 of the boiler drum is filled, 75% of the boiler drum is filled with the water. And then you can find that the fire tubes. So inside the fire tubes you find a furnace door here. So this furnace door, so from this furnace door, so you can provide solid fuel, so wood, charcoal, so you can provide the solid fuel. So you can feed the solid fuel inside the chamber and you can ignite that solid fuel to produce hot gases. So with the help of furnace door. So in that Kadapa district, so all those sugar industries, so you find boiler, internally fired boilers. So because in all the sugarcane industries, so since the molasses, so after crushing the sugar cane, so the sugar is made and then the raw material left out after crushing, so they are the molasses. So the molasses are very much helpful. So they are further used as a raw material for a combustion chamber. So the dried molasses are used as a raw material for burning, and as a raw material it will be used as a solid fuel. So because a huge quantity of sugar is produced, since a huge quantity of sugar canes are used, so it will result in huge quantity of molasses. So those sugar cane product after crushing, so after drying, so the dried sugar molasses will act as a very fundamental source of solid fuel. So they will be supplied inside the furnace door, inside the fire tubes, and they will be ignited. So they will produce a lot of hot gases and heat energy. So in this boiler drum, so inside the fire tube, so with the help of solid fuel, so the furnace will be ignited, hot gases will be produced. That hot gases are made to pass through this closed channel. So it will pass from this bottom channel and it will get out to the atmosphere through the chimney. So these hot gases will heat the fire tubes. So the fire tubes will get heated through these hot gases. So the hot energy of the fire tube will in turn heat the water surrounding the fire tube. So with the passage of heat energy from the hot gases to the fire tube and from the fire tube to the water, so the water gets heated. Once it reaches the saturation temperature, so dry saturated steam formation will take place. So this is only the 20% modification you have to remember. All other things will remain similar to that of Babcock's and Wilcox boiler. So these are the topics. Coming to the last topic, boiler mountings and accessories. So most of the boiler mountings and accessories are already covered during the explanation of Babcock's boiler and Lancashire boiler, so it need not be covered separately. So this completes topics related to boilers. So next let me play the video on Babcock's and Wilcox boiler and Lancashire boiler, and then we'll get back to the class. So let me play the video on Babcock's and Wilcox boiler.
The working of the Babcock and Wilcox boiler can be easily understood by examining the flue gas circulation. The flue gas circulation is indicated in the figure as an yellow arrow. Combustion takes place and the hot flue gases move upwards. Baffles are arranged in such a manner so as to deflect the hot gases from the grate and are forced to move in the upward direction and downward directions. The hot gases rise upward and then downward and then rise up.
So in this video you can clearly see. So the video figure is similar to the figure provided in the notes.
The purpose of deflecting the
so almost it's a similar type, it's the same figure.
Maximum heating of
so you can see the
fluid.
flow of hot gases, flow of water with the help of the arrows provided in different colors. You can see the formation of steam over the liquid water surface level.
The water circulation in the boiler is indicated with blue arrows.
Then we'll move on to the next video, that is Lancashire boiler.
Give a brief description of Lancashire boilers. Lancashire boiler is
So this is a Lancashire boiler.
fired stationary fire tube boiler with natural circulation. Its pressure range, steam production rate and efficiency are. Now let's try to understand its construction and working. Note that here we'll use the front view, top view, side view of the Lancashire boiler to explain its construction and working. Lancashire boiler consists of a horizontal cylindrical shell filled with water surrounding two large fire tubes.
So you can find these water tubes.
The cylindrical shell is
So the water tubes placed inside the boiler.
creates several channels for the flow of hot flue gases.
So here the combustion chamber is also placed inside the water tubes. Inside the fire tubes.
Solid fuel is provided through the fire,
You can see the supply of solid fuel.
which is then burnt over the grate.
So burning of the solid fuel, producing hot gases.
A small
Then you can see the hot gases.
is provided at the end of the grate. To deflect
So water
the
gets heated with the hot gases.
and prevent the entry of burning coal and ashes into the interior part of the fire tubes. The fire tubes are slightly conical towards its rear end.
So blue color indicates water level.
Gases.
So water surrounded with
Then
fire
hot flue
tubes.
gases are allowed to pass through the downward channel towards the front end of the fire tubes. Now these gases pass through the side channel towards the rear end of the fire tubes and finally escape through the chimney. There are dampers at the end of each side channel to regulate the airflow. Feed check valve is used to feed water uniformly to the boiler shell. Once the boiler is heated adequately, this steam stores at upper portion of the boiler shell, where anti-priming pipe separates the water from steam. Thus, the steam stop valve receives the dry steam for various purposes. A manhole is provided at the top and the bottom of the shell to allow a man to enter in the boiler and clean it. A blow-off valve is provided to remove the mud that has settled down. It is also used to empty the boiler. This is the complete construction and working of Lancashire boiler.
Okay, so let me stop it here. Let me get back. So let me stop the screen sharing. Okay, total 7 members have joined. Okay, I request all of you to come on the video. So we'll just have a snapshot. So it's needed. It has to be provided to the PTU. So I request all of you to please activate your video. So please activate your video. We'll just have one group photo. Can you hear my voice? So please activate your videos so that we can have one group photo, snapshot of group photo. Okay, then let me wind up the class. So thank you for joining this. If you have any doubts, so please and activate your audio. So at least activate your audio. And if anybody want to speak, you can speak up. Anybody want to speak up?
No, sir. No, sir.
Anybody want to speak up? So if anybody want to speak up, please activate your audio and speak up. Very few members have joined it. I don't know why, whether the time is not suited. I've chosen the 9 o'clock because it will be cool, so temperature will be minimum, so you can enjoy the class. Okay, shall I wind up the class?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.